Welcome to the live show, lunch show. My bad. Well, I'm Morgan Smith. I got Nick Reed, and I got one of my favorite guys in high school football, Texas specifically. My man Greg Gold. Forgot we're powered by Buddy's Home Furnishing today. Shout out to them, Greg. Man, I've been wanting to get you on here for a while. I love the stuff you do, and I want to find out a little more about this. Like, dude, like how you got into it and how long you've been doing it. Things like that. But a little background on Greg before we get into that. Which high school did you go to?
I went to, it's kind of funny. So I started at Irving Nimitz. I transferred when I wasn't told I wasn't good enough to tote the ball. And that following year became the second leading rusher in state behind Cedric Benson and at Irving High. So Irving High is kind of where my stakes came from.
It's funny how that happens when you move over. Weren't good enough to play one place, but we're good enough to play at Oklahoma State. Hey, I played against Cedric Benson in high school. Dude, that guy.
He was nasty. He was. Yeah.
I was trying to tell somebody, I was like, man, and I was young. He was a senior, and I was pretty young. So I wouldn't have been able to square up with him anyway. But I remember telling somebody, it was like he was wearing Vaseline. Like, you could not tackle this dude.
Yeah. He was. It was always fun watching him. Obviously not against us so much, but it was fun watching him in high school and even in college. He was one of those backs that he just never digressed as the game went on. He would get 3 yards, 2 yards, 4 yards. Then he would get 11. Then he would get 20. Then he would break 60. It was just like he never dropped. Just only got stronger as the game went on. In fact, he has a fun fact about Cedric Benson. Anytime he rushed for 100 yards, the University of Texas never lost. If you rushed over 100 yards. Insane. Yeah.
He was good. I remember they played the state championship game in Longhorn Stadium. And I remember that was one of the first high school games I ever watched on TV. I thought that was legit. But anyway, not here nor there. Rest in peace, Mr. Cedric. But so man, I love this AU concept. You've like right off the bat when we started game day. I don't know how I found you or got linked up with you, but
it was kind of random, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. And behind Nick right there, the gold helmet, the blue helmet, the silver helmet, like you did all of our game day stuff and still do all our game day stuff.
Yeah.
How did you get into this?
Whew, man. Two things kind of got me into this was my son started playing tackle football in 2017. And so I naturally, obviously, I wanted us, especially being in Austin, Texas, I wanted us to look just like Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Yeah.
So, and so, of course, I go online and I can't find anything anywhere. Like you cannot buy Oklahoma State helmet stickers anywhere. And so luckily, I was pretty good gracious with the equipment guy at OSU. I hit him up and I said, hey, can I get some decals? I'll pay you. I just want to look like you guys. So he sent it to me, and the set he sent me just didn't stick very well, and it just didn't look very well. I was like, man, this is what you gave me. And so I was kind of playing with some stuff. I went online and started kind of like designing my own stuff, kind of played a little bit with Adobe Illustrator, and then I ended up finding a company that was able to print exactly the way I wanted it. And so printed it, put it on their helmets, and everybody went crazy. And so I had like 4 or 5 youth teams that came to me, and I did some designs for them for free, and just said, yeah, here you go contact this person and they'll help you out. And so my buddy's like, man, you should actually think about like doing this. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. That's fine, but I'll think about it, And so my brother reached out, Marcus Gold. He was at White House, not Wiley East. And about that time, he was on kind of a cusp of becoming the head coach there. And he said, hey, I want to come with something big like next year. I saw what you did with Tatum's helmets. You want to do that for me? And I'm like, sure. So I designed it, sent it to him, and he was like, man, if it looks as good as this design, I'll buy it from you. I don't care. I'm like, okay. So I got samples, went out there. About that same time, he said, hey, you need to go see your boy down the street, Rickland Holmes, at John Tyler. And Rickland and I played together at OSU. And I was like, all right, cool. So I went online and saw everything that they did over the last couple of years. And then so I put out, they had 3 helmets at the time. and I just created a bunch of stuff kind of on their premise and like some different things just for them to check out. And went out to White House. My brother fell in love with it. Went out to John Tyler. Rickland went crazy. He was like, "This is what you're doing now, G Gold?" And I was like, kind of. I don't know. I'm just kind of just seeing what's gonna happen, you know. And so we put on the helmet. I'm like, "Well, which one do you want to do? The blue, the black, or the white?" He goes, "I'm doing all three." So Rickland did all three. And so just kind of a little background of me and my wife. She's very, very frugal in a lot of good ways because I know how to make it and spend it, and she knows how to hang on to it. And so she said, I went to her and I said, "Hey, babe, I just got 2 high schools and a bunch of people think I'm pretty good." I said, "What do you think about, starting this as a side gig and going from there?" And she said, "Well, what is it going to cost? Because I don't want to get in big debt with all these, bank loans and all the other stuff." And I said, "Well, I went online and an LLC is $300. So you're looking at $300 start." And she was like, "Let me think about it." So the next day she said, "Okay." So thanks to her and $300 that she approved for me to spend, we started AU. That year we had a goal of about 20 teams, and we actually ended up doing 40 because we didn't really start until about April. Which is way behind, right? Again, this was just a side gig. And so we did about 40 teams that year, and then it just continued. So after that, we ended up doing like that very next year. I kind of felt the rumblings. Courtney had started putting things online on Twitter. I didn't even know Twitter. I didn't even have a Twitter. And so she started posting things, and she came to me one day and she said, "Hey, you realize like Twitter's like where it's at. Like it's like the biggest platform for all these coaches and these players. You got to start putting your helmets on there." And so as fate would have, and I say this humbly, I used to beg for these coaches to send me pictures of like their helmets. "Hey, can you give me like just some like 2 or 3 good shots of your helmets once you get your decals put together?" And I get it, you're busy, just send me to. I used to beg. And so we get them, we put them on. And then now everybody's like, "Hey, are we going to get a helmet spin? Hey, are we going to get a helmet spin?" So it's kind of the tide to turn. But so, yeah, we just organically grew from 40 to 350 teams to 700 teams and 1,000. And so here we are, year 5, over 4,000 teams later in 44 states. And it's been an unreal ride.
So, everybody talks about like the Texas high school football fraternity. I mean, I was literally in the airport a while back, ran across a guy I hadn't seen since I graduated and played football with. And it's just like you're caught right back up. How big of a role do you think it played for you that, you were a star in Texas high school football?
It definitely plays a role in a lot of aspects. You talk about Coach Jared Stanford over at Texas High. He coached against me when I was at Irving High, and he remembers me. And same coach at Eagles Trinity. And so a lot of these cats that I'm doing business with now, I either played with, or they coached me, or they played against me, or coached against me, or kind of the same thing. Kind of bringing my brother back in, they remember him. So it's had a very impactful role from that perspective. And it feels good to know that, you always talk about your high school days, and a lot of times they kind of fade away. And it's nice to know that the things that I did in high school was, worth remembering from a lot of these guys. And, I never forget a coach over at, he's at Fossil Ridge now. He was at LD Bell, but he said, he was like, "I never looked forward to ever playing against you guys in high school. So seeing you here," he was like, "it's kind of bittersweet. Like I like you, but I don't like you."
Yeah.
And so, but man, it's all good, and it's been very impactful being able, to be a running back. I kind of feel like too that the era that I ran the ball is kind of like the last of a dying breed. It's all about the air out game, and so there's a fine appreciation for that. And
hell, Greg, you ain't coming out to East Texas enough.
Right? Yeah, right. That's a whole other breed of ball out there. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But nonetheless, I'll say this much: the eye back is almost depleted at this point, no matter where you.
That's true. That's true.
Most definitely. But speaking to the era, you came from a different era. In the field of what you do, the flashy helmets and everything may not be looked at as something that everybody wants. How do you kind of market around that and get it done still?
So a couple things. One is like, so for me, I get the questions, hey, do you have a catalog? Do you have a catalog? And the answer is always no. And the answer always will be no. Simply because I don't want any coach to look like the guy down the street. Now, we do a lot of things that are similar because a lot of uniforms are similar. And that's kind of how I base my premise off of a lot of things that we do is what you have on your body. Now, you've had the schools that, I'll use Rockwall Heath, for example. I'll use them. Coach there last year. He hated chrome, didn't like chrome. He's like, but I love my boys and my boys love it. Is there anything that you could find in between? And this was like 3 or 4 years ago. I was like, well, we could look at doing kind of like a matte chrome finish, which is kind of like a brushed nickel. So basically you take the chrome finish, you put the matte over top of it. And if you've gone to Home Depot and you're ever buying faucets, you look at brushed nickel, chrome, and black plated, and that would be the brushed nickel. And so you try to find a medium of not having flash. What really helps is adding accessories. So the flags, the front and rear bumper decals, just a small touch to make it more about the program and less about the helmet manufacturer, which they hate me for. But nonetheless, I try to find things, fine-tune things, little things, by not doing clear when I try to avoid using clear. How a lot of teams just let that come through. I try to avoid that. You're talking 47 to 76 cents more a decal, but it looks 20 times better. And so cutting to the color, just making things look sharp, not cutting corners, and just doing things right, doing things the right way, really a lot of times brings out more than what the coach is even asking for from a standpoint. So it's a balance of not getting crazy, and really just listening more than anything to what the coach wants his program to look to reflect.
Yeah, I still remember when I got my first set of stickers in. We do the game day MVP stickers that go on helmets, playmaker stickers. Had a sparkle to it, and I wish I had this cup in front of me. I think it's either at the office somewhere. I put 2 of those helmet stickers on this cup I had. My wife puts it in the dishwasher all the time. They look exactly the same. They haven't came off, like super high quality. I even tell kids when I give it to them, hey, at the end of the season, take it off your helmet. It'll something else, and it's not going to wear. And I feel confident at this point. That's the truth. I've been really, really pleased with our stuff. The stuff you did for us has really helped with our branding with the younger kids, the kids in high school. Everywhere we take them, kids want to put them on, mess with them. It's been fun. I've been really pleased to see the success you've been having. I'm assuming if you have 900 schools, you're not just in Texas.
Right. And every day we go through, or I say every day, once a week we go through about who we have left on the docket, who's in progress, who's just interested, whose artwork is done, whose orders out the door. And one of the things that was really eye-opening for me was going to, forget where we were driving, but me and my son, we were headed to some football camps. And my son's in the car, and ironically, we're going on 35, and we had to take a detour, surprise, surprise, because they literally shut down 35 because a crane had fallen over top of the highway. And so we had to take a detour. And so because we took a detour, we had to hit all these small towns, backwood towns, and these little backwood roads. And it was funny to see, unfortunately I don't get to go to every school that I do like I used to be able to, because, again, that would be all I would do is just travel.
Yeah.
It was funny to go through all these schools, and we would drive past all these high schools, and my son Tatum would ask, hey, did you do them? And I'm like, yes. He's like, no, you didn't. And so I pulled the helmet up, I'm like, right here. We passed another school, and we do it again. Passed another. He's like, geez. He's like, so you just do all the high schools? And I'm like, as we're driving, I'm like, all right. I guess it was kind of eye-opening. Like, wow, yeah, we actually do all of these schools. And so it's one of those things that I've always wanted to work for myself, provide for myself, and do something that was meaningful. I've always wanted to put energy into something that I felt it would give back, not so much monetarily, more so just just feeling fruitful about what I do every morning and waking up. And so AU has been everything in that regard. And so it's just something that I can tell my children, hey, I stepped out at a time where it wasn't where I was, I had a great job and all that fun stuff, but I didn't love what I was doing. And I started something from scratch. And, if that's a lesson to anybody that's out there, it's love what you do. And that's where we're at.
Most definitely.
So,
with swag, go ahead, Morgan.
No, go ahead. You good?
I was just saying, with swag being such an important part of the game now, you turn on, obviously, what we do. You see the guys that we put on film, they've got the helmet looks nice. They've got the sleeves on and everything. With swag being so important, do you ever kind of just sit back and be like, man, I'm kind of like a forefather of the swag movement?
No, hey, for real, though, I feel that. Like, nobody was doing this.
Yeah. I guess I've never heard that. So, I just from a perspective, just personally, I'm very much into like wearing things that nobody else has. I have a bunch of rare Jordans. I have, a lot of different clothes and suits and stuff that when I walk in, it's not that I want to stand out, but I don't want to blend in, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I've just growing up, I've always kind of been that kind of player. Even at Oklahoma State, I was like one of the very first ones that had like the Nike Apocalypse that were limited at that point. And everyone's like, wait, where'd you get those? And then they were like, oh no, Gold got the last like 6 pairs because I made sure nobody else on the team could have them. but to say a forefather, that's a very generous compliment. But it doesn't take away from the folks that have kind of started this whole thing. Just as a just overall general deal. I think what has happened, in my opinion, and where we've had success is that some of the decal companies that have been around, so I guess you would call them my competitors, a lot of these folks have done nothing but try to show up and just grab an order. Hey, you want to do what you did last year? Okay, cool. Put your order in? All right, great. And for me, it's, again, not creating a catalog. For me, it's, hey, every year, every team, every group, every program, or even the same programs, they have a different mindset. Even playing in college, every year, the mindset was different. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I think about things that coaches don't, and they shouldn't. Coaches are thinking about players. They're thinking about, knuckleheads going to class. They're thinking about workouts. They're thinking about game day schedules. They're thinking about hiring new coaches. Thinking about what they look like should not be on their plate, other than they should hire the right person to do that job. It's like delegating. That's what the greatest coaches are, the greatest delegators, in my opinion. And so from that perspective, I think that that's kind of an area where I step in and have been able to kind of take it to the next level. I think being able to be creative and use my imagination and to think about what other people don't think about on a regular basis, and going in to not collect an order, but more so to have those players and those coaches feel good. Late at night, when I'm doing most of my designs, that's when my phone's off. That's when everybody's asleep. Even in my house, that's kind of like when the bourbon kicks in, that's when my imagination kicks in. And, from that point, it just allows me to think. I literally close my eyes and I visualize, okay, if this is on my head, I come out the tunnel, as you hear that crowd roaring as you get closer to coming out, how will I feel with this on my body? One of my favorite things about the game of football is coming out for warm-ups. You hear the bands warming up, not actually playing any songs, but they kind of have the drums going. Mm-hmm. You kind of have that little like solemn sound of the people talking and listening, and you could feel them watching. And I think about how I'm perceived as I come out of that tunnel wearing that. And if I don't love that, then I'm like, no. And so then sometimes I can't get away with what a coach wants to do, but I do always do my best to try to not so much sway them in what I want to do, but to pull out what they want their program to look like, what they want their program to symbolize, and more importantly, how are their boys going to feel? We live right, wrong, or indifferent. We live in an era about our feelings, right? More now than ever. And the way we feel sometimes, unfortunately, can sway how we play or perform or even act or respond. And so if I can make a player feel good about rolling on that field with a badass helmet, then I feel like I've done my job.
I don't know how we've been under 20 minutes. We ain't said anything about Oregon. And like early 2000s, I mean, they were the first one to like break the traditional mold and step out there and do things different. I feel like you've kind of brought Texas high school football into the 21st century. The biggest video game day has ever had cost nothing to produce. It was when the Texas High kids saw the playoff helmets. Last time I checked, it was somewhere over 5 million views on that particular video.
I literally got teary-eyed watching that. Like, a lot of times I don't get to be a part of the reveals. I get asked to from time to time, but it's hard to get out there.
Yeah.
But I literally, I look back at my career, just my workforce career, not even talking about AU, just my overall workforce career. And I think about the moments in my life where I wasn't told I was good enough, right? Even in high school and even in college, moments where you just didn't feel whole, right? You didn't feel like you contributed, didn't feel accepted. And it was literally in that moment watching that video, I felt this is why I do what I do. This is what makes me proud. And this is exactly why I have no quit. Because I'm going to find something that makes me feel like I'm changing the game and bringing something to the table that people love, that's going for a good cause. Not so much padding pockets for people. That's not what I'm in the business for. It's literally to help build. I was in Oklahoma at a show, and a coach had come up to me and he said, I've been getting my decal from XYZ, and what's so different between yours? You're more expensive. And before I could even respond, a coach just rifles right into the conversation. He goes, "Let me tell you something." He was like, "Greg comes to your school to build your program, not to take an order. He's more expensive than everybody. But every time I open that box, every time I see that box," he was like, "nothing fills me more joy than opening it, because I know that I did not overspend what's inside that box." And I had nothing to say after that. I was like, "Well, there you go." And the coach said, "Well, that's good enough for me," and started working with them ever since. But it's just a phenomenal journey, and it's only growing, and it's progressing in areas that I've never thought it would before. And we're doing a lot of special things coming up as well. So
I was about to ask you, have you released the Duncanville helmet yet?
Not yet.
I'm excited to see that one.
That's coming soon. But yes.
If I remember right, you designed an Oklahoma State helmet too, right?
Yes. Yeah, 2019 we did the throwback. So the throwback helmet's always like the big deal for Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And so we had talked, Justin Williams and I had talked about the direction they wanted to go with that. We had looked at several different whites that we were wanting to use. But not so over the top modern that it took away from the heritage of that helmet. And so anyway, yeah, that was a great just being part of that whole aspect.
What is your favorite helmet you've done?
Favorite helmet of all time, man. That is so hard to say, because it's almost kind of like, what's your favorite car? Like, I have no idea what my I guess we can break this down. NFL helmet would always be the Dallas Cowboy helmet. Something about that helmet. That was the first helmet I put on my head, and that star, even though it pains me for the last 20 seasons, I still continue to love that star on that helmet. You can kind of see I have all of the different, eras of different helmets for Dallas, but probably Dallas Cowboy helmet, and obviously OSU helmet I love. I like the era that our helmets were there, but I love the Power Ranger helmets. Those are legit, the original Power Rangers, not the new ones that look weird. The original ones, like the regular green Ranger helmet. That one set it off. It was green, it was gold, it was awesome. But no, I don't really in particular I love them all, but if I had to say, if I only could wear one helmet for the rest of my life, it'd probably be a Dallas Cowboy helmet.
I think most sports fans would say that.
Yeah,
no, they would not. But does the style of the helmet match or play a role in your design? Because some people are going to be wearing Revolution Speed, some people are going to be wearing a DNA or whatever.
Yes, yes and no. That kind of it more so that comes into play is when you start talking about half helmet decals. So for instance, like we'll just use Oklahoma State for an example, like the giant pistol P. Let's just say a high school wanted something that big. It really breaks down into labor. How labor intensive do these coaches want to get into? Do you want to take the face mask off? The wings, the Oregon Duck wings that we do, I ended up, as more teams were wanting to do those, I actually ended up designing a wing to where you didn't have to take the face mask off anymore. But only that certain one works for certain makes and models. And so really, I don't really so much think of the make and model, even though, man, nowadays these helmets are looking more and more like batting helmets more than football helmets. Whoever's designing these helmets aren't thinking about decals at all. I can say that much. But that doesn't necessarily come into play. I think it more so comes down to kind of how comfortable a coach is, depending on what the design is. And really just really reflecting what they want their program to look like.
So you did the PG helmets, what was it, 2 years ago when they added the whites?
2 years ago, whites, yeah.
So I know you do a lot of helmets. Do you remember the design you did?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about like what goes into your thought process on that.
So Coach Gibson's a very traditional guy. But again, it's one of those deals where he's traditional, but he wants his boys to be sparked up about what's on their helmet, right? And so again, it's finding the medium, and the PG's not going anywhere. So that not being on the helmet's not an option, which is fine. That's kind of the way it is for like 75% of the schools I work with. Is they have a logo. While they can play with colors, it can't be moved. Even like South Lake Carroll, West Lakes W, it can't. Yeah. They can play with different colors in from certain aspects, but as far as like not having it on, not an option. So again, a lot of it kind of is derived from like what they have on their uniforms. That helps me lead direction. So if they go with like UCLA stripes or Auburn stripes, Ohio State stripes, I like to mimic those things. Same thing if they have sharper edges on their jerseys and things of that nature. That's kind of where we go with the tapered looks. So for Coach and for the PG, it was hey, we want some pop, but we want to still have a traditional feel. And so with that's kind of why we went with the chrome and the chrome and the metallic flakes, which a lot of people can't do. It's either one or the other. We can actually do all three. We can do matte, chrome, and flakes if we wanted to, which is probably the best looking design you'll ever see, which a few people have done. It's a little pricey, looks great, but so for Coach, he went with a kind of the basic gloss white, and so we wanted something that that PG stuck out really nice while keeping kind of the traditions intact, and that's where we went with just the chrome and the flake. Great pop, looks good at night, and again, it sticks with just everything that they've got going on.
You've done several Texas High helmets, right?
Texas what? I'm sorry.
You've done several Texas High helmets, right?
Oh yeah.
The one I loved the helmet last year, and no hate on this helmet. No hate on this one. It's a fly helmet, but man, I really, really, really liked last year's helmet. Something about the logo on the side and the T on the other. I mean, it'd be nice if they had the chrome one.
He said, oh. He's like, are you going to donate those to me? And I was like, yeah, you got it, buddy.
But I get, they're going a little bit more traditional. But, man, those black helmets with you've done some nice stuff. That was one of the best looking helmets I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I think
Coach at Texas High is fun to work with. He literally, he'll give me 2 or 3 ideas, and then he just premise, right? Where you have to appease the old heads, you have to appease the super, the the heritage is there for a lot of these football programs, which is very understandable. But coach is fun to work with in that he gives me 2-3 ideas and he's like, now kicks me in the butt and says go. And then I come up with like 6 things and then I send all of them to him to test out on the helmet as far as the sample is concerned. And then he'll come back and go, all right, I love XYZ, 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 and this is perfect. And then we go with it. And so, that's kind of been our relationship. That's my relationship with a lot of the coaches, but yeah, for sure. Texas High has always been a fun school to work with. I mean, it's black and orange. I mean, sign me up anytime.
Yeah. So what's next for you? I have an idea of what I think you should be doing. Let's see what's next for AU.
Well, you tell me, and then I'll fill it in. Maybe I'll take some of those ideas from you.
All right. Well, don't be stealing my ideas.
Okay. All right. I'll send you the royalties on it if we do it.
All right. Here's what we need to do. You look at these college uniforms.
Okay.
They have the patches in different places. You got to just take completely over. I don't know what it would take for you to sell jerseys. Probably it's something that's come directly from manufacturer, but the patches that go on them, like, how cool would it be to have the districts have their own logos?
Mm-hmm.
Regions have their own logos. One thing I don't see on a high school jersey that you see on every jersey, almost at every level, is a Captain C.
Mm-hmm.
Little different things that, like, I feel like that's a market. Every team should have that. And for some reason or other, we don't in high school football.
Yeah.
And I think you're the man to give me my 15% and make that happen.
15%? I was thinking best I can do is like 7. Can we start there?
7 and maybe 4 new helmets a year.
All right, done. Sold.
So,
I told myself when I got into this, I was like, I don't want to get into the uniform. I'm not doing uniforms. Don't ask me about uniforms. I'm not doing uniforms. And as we're continuing to go, I keep asking coaches keep asking me, so are you going to get in the uniforms?
See how he does, Nick? You see what he's doing?
Yeah.
You see what he's doing?
Yep. And so, and of course, it's at a time where, like, you can't hardly find material anywhere, with back ordering issues and everything else when it comes to that kind of stuff. So are uniforms down the pipeline? Sure. We eventually we're going to get into helmet recon. I feel like I can fill in that space a lot better than what's being done right now.
That's got to be a huge market.
Yep. And so just being able to do the custom painting, it's a nightmare trying to get in that world. It's I won't go down a rabbit hole with it, but it's very political in that the 2 helmet manufacturers. They do play a role in making it hard for people to get into that world. Not just leave it at that. But helmet recon, uniform stuff, and then one of the biggest things that I announced at our show in San Antonio, which was awesome, man. I wish you were there. But one of the big announcements that we had was it's more so maybe not so much producing a product, but more so giving back to the football world. I think every company just takes and takes and takes, and they don't give back. And so and what kind of sparked the whole idea was I was asked to spend a crazy amount of money in a magazine that everybody's going to know you and all these things. And in my mind, I originally was like, yes, that would be great. I'd love to be in it. And then after it kind of came back and realized, I was like, man, I can think of some better ways to spend that money. And so moving forward, every year, starting this year, we'll have some more information that gets posted, on Twitter and whatnot. But every year, we're going to give away scholarship money to kids in high school, and these kids are going to be kind of like your preferred walk-on kids, kids that are good in the community, great athletes, that just are kind of overlooked by the D1, D2, D3 schools. And so that's my way of giving back to the game. Giving back to kids that are doing the right things. I think in life, all of us need just one little edge. And so this year, we're going to pick 5 kids to give away $1,000 scholarship to. And then we're going to announce those kids during the December, during the state championships. and then we're going to come out and visit with those kids, meet with them, and we're going to do that every year. And the more success that we can have, the more money we will give to these kids as things progress. But it's something that's near and dear to me. In high school, it's a true story, and I can tell you now because he's retired, and and I have no more eligibility, so I think the NIL at this point doesn't matter anyway. But in high school, I tore my ACL my junior spring game going into my senior year, and so my senior year I actually played without my ACL. A lot of people don't know that, but I played without my ACL, and we didn't have a ton of money, and my high school coach paid for my surgery. Now that's obviously very legal, but it was the only way I was able to play, and it was my only way out from that perspective of being able to play again. And so it just goes to show you, like, that one gesture, that one small gesture was a huge gesture that who knows what had happened if I was never able to play again and didn't have the career I did at OSU. And I may not be sitting here talking to you guys, right? And so, again, I think anybody who's ever made it in life or done anything has had not handouts, but a chance or an opportunity. And I think that's something I want to do and provide for kids that are working hard, that just need to get out of a bad neighborhood, need to get out of their community and go grow and become something of themselves. And so for us, that's really the biggest thing that we want to continue to do year in and year out.
Yeah, that's legit right there.
Hey, you know what I just thought about too? I forgot to tell you about this. Another idea.
All right, let's hear it. All
right. You know what's next is the thigh pads, the 3D thigh pads.
Yep.
That's what you got to get in next. I'll take 9% on that deal.
3D. Yeah, but they all have to be like, they all have to have like AU on the thigh. I can't,
I mean, you can put, you send me my check, dude. It don't matter.
Yeah.
Put anything you want on it. You know what I mean?
All right,
Texas Canada schools have to get the game day logos
only if you wear the first prototypes in the office.
For 9%, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it for 9%.
What color scheme, like when a coach hits you up, what color scheme do you automatically know, like, I'm gonna make this fly, like this is gonna be fly no matter what? Or what color scheme do you see and you're like, oh, this is gonna be, it's gonna be a tough one?
I struggle from time to time. I struggle with burgundy. I just nothing against the Aggies or my brother, but I struggle with burgundy. I just don't love that color. It's like a mix of brown and red. I just don't love burgundy. I make it happen, but I struggle with that. But anytime obviously, so like Texas High, orange, blues and red, like bright blues and reds. I love those. So it's just kind of, and it all kind of depends on kind of the logo, what the coach is willing to let me do. If he's like, hey, roll with it, and I look at, they have like a cool uniform, a great setup, I'm like, oh man, I know exactly what's gonna make that pop. And so it's not necessarily like, I don't always need a crazy helmet color. In fact, I prefer to have a white or a black helmet. Those are the most fun to work with because it's such an open canvas. Whereas colored helmets, you're kind of stuck to just one or two colors. And so, when I see a black or white helmet, whether it's matte or gloss finish, I love matte black. That's nasty. You can do so many things with matte black. You can go regular chrome. You can go matte chrome. You can go matte on matte. There's so many options for matte black that when I see a matte black helmet, I'm like, and he lets me do what I want, I'm like, yes, let's go. But so yeah, again, it all kind of depends on what they got going on and how much how long of a leash they'll let me get crazy with.
So man, what's football season look like for you?
Well, disappointing when Dallas loses Sunday, but it's funny. I find myself now almost not enjoying games because I look at these helmets. I'm like, why would they do that?
That's my question. Are you out and about on Friday nights?
Yeah. So Friday night. So Thursday nights. I'm watching it on the game or on the TV. Friday nights, I love getting out when I can. And so this year I plan on doing a little bit more traveling Friday nights and checking out some games. Definitely going to come out there and visit you guys this year.
Yeah, dude. Come we'll get you on set for a game or two.
I'd love that. Yeah, I haven't seen the set in person. So so Fridays I try to spend my time, especially it's easy to get to my local guys here in Austin. But Saturdays, it's for me, it's football for my little one. So I coach him. I say little one, he's 11 now, but Saturday mornings are always with him. That's typically when they play. But, and then Sundays and Saturday nights are kind of just asking myself why teams are doing these helmets. Even my wife is like, I can't even watch a football game anymore, wondering why they're doing their helmets that way. I mean, I'll look at stuff and I'm like, why would they push it full? Like, I go through just thrashing. I won't say any teams, but I just go through thrashing something. I'm like, why would they do that? Why? But
so if you were going to do an alternative helmet for the Longhorns, what would it look like?
First off, I would turn that down. No, just kidding. Alternate helmet for the Longhorns. Man, I don't know. Would I pick the color too, or would it matter?
I mean, you probably got to stay. I mean, I figured you just invert the colors, do like a chrome orange with the white Longhorn, something easy.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't know. I'd have to put my mind toward that. I think it would be in one of those schools where you can't get too crazy because you got to kind of stick to the premise. But there's a lot of things you can do. Again, it's a white helmet, so there's a lot of options there.
Who really needs to
stripe a little bit, maybe go like a 1 inch or 2 inch double stripe or something like that. But I think a little burnt orange chrome wouldn't hurt anybody. But yeah, I definitely could get pretty wild with that one.
Are you working with UTSA yet?
Not UTSA. No.
I'd love to see a redesign on that.
That'd be a nice helmet.
No, yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I can have a lot of fun with that navy and orange for sure. Yeah, them and we're working on SFA. We're doing a really cool helmet for SFA this year. We haven't dropped that one yet. So this year in particular, we've really grown in the small universities in Texas, like a lot. We're about to drop one for UT Pan Am, UT Permian Basin. Those guys, A&M Kingsville, we're doing one for this year. So Hardin-Simmons, our first college in general. We've already dropped theirs, but he's another coach who lets me do kind of whatever the university allows me to do, but have fun with it. So I feel same thing with Tyler Junior College, right there next to you guys. We've worked with them for the last 4 years and we've had a lot of fun with their helmets. So playing with their stripes and things like that. But, man, it's just, love to get into, some of the bigger schools in Texas, obviously. And I think we might have some opportunities with Baylor next year, but we'll see.
Cool, brother. Well, man, appreciate you being on with us. Best of luck to you this year. Please come out to East Texas. We want to see you.
Absolutely. I'm there. And I appreciate you guys. And again, I can't thank you enough for, retweeting all of our stuff and challenging me to see. That's what I love about working with you is you always make me do alternates for the schools. And so when they see the alternates, they just go crazy. And I'm like, yeah, then guess what? You don't get to see it.
Yeah, I think when I put this chrome orange out, everybody was like, oh, yeah, man, they spend the money. Well, they'll do whatever. And I'm like, well, there's one of them. It's a one of one.
Yeah, for sure.
But all right, brother. Well, man, I appreciate it. I'll get with you. I need to order some more stickers myself, so I'll get with you soon.
Let's do it. All love, man. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yes,
appreciate it, brother.
Great talking to you.
You too, brother.